Hi everyone, this is Jesse, VOCEL's Executive Director. Thanks for tuning in. This series is called Little Kids, Big Ideas. If you're a longtime listener, I'm so glad you're back. If you're listening for the first time, welcome. Most of the recordings are focused on my take for strategies on parenting, grandparenting, raising little kids, teaching little kids, setting them up for success and a life of well-being. Today, I want to talk about something that we all want for our children, for them to become excellent, proficient readers, and how the things we do with them in the early years matter for their future reading skills. In the next 5 minutes, I'll share a quick look at kids' reading skills in the U.S. overall, then my take on what creates strong readers, and finally, I'll share where we see gaps at the population level and what change is needed system-wide. Okay, let's dive in. So last month, a National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, report was released, and it detailed reading and math proficiency across a representative sample of 4th and 8th graders nationwide. You may have heard about it. It's getting some press in the education world. And spoiler alert, the data is sobering. Reading proficiency in nearly every state and nationwide collectively continues to be far below acceptable levels. Only 31% of 4th graders nationwide showed proficiency in reading. This was down from 33% in 2022 and 35% in 2019. In Chicago specifically, 53% of all 4th graders scored below basic in reading, and only 23% scored either proficient or advanced. Obviously, this is a problem. Even if your child is one of those 23% whose reading is proficient or advanced, this is a systemic societal issue. We know that reading proficiency is a predictor of high school graduation, college readiness, career outcomes, and so much more. There's just no shortage of reasons why we need a literate society. So how do we make sure that our own children and grandchildren and all children citywide become great readers? And what should their schools be doing too? I think about 4 key strategies. First, before they go to school, kids need exposure to books, languages, and stories. They need to be read to and spoken with before they can talk, as they're learning to talk, and beyond. This can look so many different ways. It can be exposure to rhymes, stories, songs, books, and more. Second, kids need to learn the mechanics of reading. You may have heard this called the science of reading. In grades kindergarten through 2nd, children should be taught using an evidence-based curriculum that includes phonemic awareness, phonics, blending sounds. If you're interested in digging deeper into some of the controversy around the science of reading, the Sold the Story podcast is an interesting listen. I won't go into the details here, but there is great research showing that kids excel when they're provided with very clear, direct instruction on these mechanics of letters, sounds, and how to blend sounds to form words. Now, third, let's say these first 2 strategies, right? The exposure to stories, talking with kids when they're really young, and then the mechanics of reading. Those 2 together, let's say they don't work. Then what? More recent research has found that when kids are struggling with the mechanics of reading at ages 6, 7, 8 years old, high dosage tutoring can be highly effective in catching kids up. Parents with the resources to do so can secure tutoring for their children in maybe an after-school capacity, and schools can also provide this one-on-one support if students need it. So all of that together, commonly held conventional wisdom says that those 3 should be enough. In actuality, those 3 are, yes, important, but insufficient. We're missing a major piece of what sets kids up to be proficient readers, especially in grades 3 and beyond. So here's what happens between grades 2 and 3. kids go from learning to read to reading to learn. So let me say that again. In kindergarten, first grade, second grade even, kids are learning to read, learning how to put sounds together, learning to pause when they see a space or a period, learning that certain words just have to be memorized, like the, and, what, why, right? All of that is learning to read. Then in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the type of reading that kids are expected to do really changes dramatically. No longer is it about learning to read a short sentence. Now kids are expected to read in order to learn, to read paragraphs of text and glean knowledge, right? To make meaning, to draw conclusions, to comprehend, to analyze. This is a whole new set of skills. And even if you were great at the learning to read part and you had those mechanics down pat, that really doesn't matter if you can't read to learn. So the fourth strategy, the one that's not often talked about when we think about building great readers, but actually so crucial for reading to learn, are executive functioning skills. Executive functioning skills are like working memory, attention, cognitive flexibility, mental inhibition, and even planning. So in order to stick with a longer text, right, stay focused, remember what you read, think critically about what connections might exist, think openly about what the various words might mean, and draw conclusions, all of that comes from those executive functioning skills and applying those to the task of reading. And here's the kicker. Guess what develops executive functioning skills? Play. Rigorous, playful learning, where kids have support and guidance from adults and the opportunity to get into projects, tasks, challenges, where they have to develop and practice these executive functions. At VOCEL, one of our core motivations is the starkly unequal access that children have to playful learning. In some homes, schools, and communities, play is a given. It's at the center. In others, it's far from accessible. So it shouldn't be a big surprise that we see a major disparity in these fourth grade reading scores too. In Chicago, fourth graders from a high-income background, 89% of them, nearly all of them, were at or above basic reading proficiency. Compare that to students with low-income backgrounds, and only 37% of them were at or above basic proficiency. So this data really reiterates that playful learning is not just a nice to have. It needs to be at the core of every child's education, and when it's not, it's doing a disservice. It's showing up in reading proficiency data like this. It's essential that we advance the use of rigorous playful learning in homes and schools citywide so that all kiddos have that quality start that they deserve. And that's what you are supporting when you make gifts to VOCEL. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do for your own children, your own grandchildren, and for our entire city. Thank you again for tuning in today, and happy playing.